A very good morning and welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show on a Friday on the 27th of August. We are officially starting the weekend today. Samukuzinivuka kahle namhla ekseni sibakhulu ukuthi nivuke nathi namhla ekseni. Siyathi ukuthi akuvuke kodwa nje sibonga ukuthi sovele uvukile ubukela amabonakude wakho. Your favorite show Kusile Breakfast Show. Sunny boy, good morning.
Kunjalo Logelele. Good morning. This is their Feel Good Breakfast Show. Actually everyone's Feel Good Breakfast Show. How do you feel? Kuti cold front kusasa.
Uyabanza. So asikhone kwasha kule weekend.
Yeah.
And yashiya namuhla wena.
Nahlala ngikhona.
It was a beautiful week.
Day number two. Yes. Day number 2. Sikhumbula ukuthi amakhosi live. Amemeteleke ingozi lemqoka kakhulu ekuzila. We pray for the healing of Eswatini and the world at large. We understand there's a lot going on. We pray for peace and stability as well. Yes. Day number 2 today. Tomorrow tingozi tiyaqhubeka sola ngesimbi yelishumi nakunye kuze kube insimbi yokuqala. Tikhona ke emsakatweni wetithombe Eswatini TV sibuka semaswati channel emaswati. Emsakatweni wemoya EBIS 1 na 2 tikhona ke naka Voice of the Church. Ngule tixhumana YouTube titabe tikhona nakhona.
Stabes live everywhere. So wena qiniseka ukuthi uyakhona ukubukela mbukele sivale nje inkonzo yesizwe. Sema ukuthi kuyazileka kuyathandazeka.
And the theme verse is Isaiah 66,
Yeah, good time, right. Kulesikhathi mukela sasibuke nje umbiko wetempilo webantu labatholakala nemkhuhlane elangeni layitolo. Langeni layitolo kuhlelwe abantu labangu 1942 labatholakala ukuthi bana lomkhuhlane bangu 477. Kanti lapha sesibhedlela labelashwako bangu 320 labaluleme dinombolo letintsha kumbe ukuthi bangu 501 lasabaluleme nje solo waphethuka lomkhuhlane bangu 31,768 bamhla basishile emhlabeni itolo balishumi nesihlanu 15 kanti ke ema cases la active angu 9,332 bese ukuthi ema cases solo waphethuka lomkhuhlane dinombolo selifike ku 42,157 kanti le dola labo labasishile emhlabeni certificate ku 1,057.
Kunjalo basotla mahle sidawathi ke ukuthi litiko letempilo liqhubeka njalo nekugomesa sive semaswati sokwagomela wona umkhuhlane COVID-19. Kumanje sibe semaswati lesesigomile singu 146,957. Kunjalo lolo that is 12.7%.
Yeah, silelele nje labo tihlobo nebanganta labo labasishile emhlabeni. Kunengilongondeka ko ncongwane la emhlabeni COVID bayafa bamfuba kunema floods njani Afghanistan nje kubena explosion itolo kwafa about 60 people
dead and about 13 base USA. There was a bombing. Kusolo the Islamic State. Joe Biden wants to retaliate. They won't forgive. And there's a lot going on in Afghanistan because umangabe sibuka the takeover of Taliban. Say even the access to e-banking. You can't access money, you can't go to the bank, you can't transfer money. So there's a lot going on.
And of course in Nigeria, lapha Africa nakhona kunetinza batakhona kunebafundi ke labakidnapwa esikolweni ngenyanga yenkwekwethi in May this year. They were kidnapped by gunmen. 136 of students were kidnapped in a school and some of them have been freed. So sebabuyele ekhaya. These gunmen demanded ransom kule school after kidnapping the students, and it is reported that some 13 students bakhona ku escape after the kidnapping. So yes, sababonga ukuthi at least abakhululiwe sebakhonile kubuyela ekhaya.
Indeed.
Yeah, alright Mugeli. Si kunelisakhulumisa namhla ehlelweni ngwane lento abakhulumisa phathizwe etindzaba tema sports as singena ku weekend Steve njengabantu nje ama updates sports ukuthi what can we look forward to njengoba singena kuphela somvo sabensikhumisana lapha nemhlabeleli sense senze Mathebula on a collaboration artist as South Africa Layendile which is powered by the MTN bushfire. So bakhe ingoma nale artist Zolani known as the one who sings bekahlabela ku Freshly Ground iqembu nje laseNingizimu Africa. So they will be streaming live their song today, so we'll be speaking to Sanziso about that later on the show. So right now, let's take a break. Nasibuya tabe netindzaba.
I mean, God had to go at me a number of times before I finally swallowed this. Because we just have such a wrong mindset about what God expects out of us. And you know what religion is? Religion is what we think God expects out of us instead of us looking at what he's done for us. We have worth and value not because of what we do, but because Jesus died for us. Because we're no better than anybody else. Anything that we are that in Christ, or we're nothing at all. And I enjoy ministry so much more now. I'm so comfortable, and I love God, and I like myself, and I don't care what you think about that, but I just like myself. I spent enough years hating myself. I'm done with all that. Amen.
It's very unfortunate. It is very rich in resources. It is very rich.
The Eswatini TV Board of Directors, management and staff convey their wholehearted condolences on the untimely passing of our former CEO, Mr. Bongani Austin Gqokosiyancinca Dlamini. Strogo, as he was affectionately known, served the station as Chief Executive Officer for 3 successive terms, where he served with diligence and integrity, contributing to the success of the organization. His demise is indeed an immeasurable loss to the authority and nation at large, as he was a colleague, father, and leader who sternly believed in teamwork and growth. We will miss his wisdom, pleasantly bigger-than-life personality, and his great sense of humor. May the good Lord comfort his family, colleagues, friends, fans, and nation at large during the sad time of immeasurable loss. Hamba kahle Nkosi. May your soul rest in eternal peace, Hlublo Mhlumlangeni.
Mukali asekuvusele siphinde sokwamukele tindzabeni tekuqala telisuku kulolu hlelo ikusile breakfast show lethulela ngomsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV sibuka samaswati lami libito ngisaneboya kwancwane asingene kito ke tindzaba ndona kulu Cleopas Dlamini sewuthelekile ke ekhaya emva kube angenele umcimbi wekufungiswa kwamangameli omusha welive leZambia Hakainde Hichilema lapho khona bekamelele khona silo semhlaba ingonyama ingosi Mswati wesithathu ndona kulu ke utheleke esikhumulweni setindiza eKing Mswati the International Airport.
Umhlonishwa ndivunankulo Cleopas Dlamini sewubuyile ekhaya lapho bekayongenela khona umsebenzi wekufungiswa kwamengameli lomusha welive leZambia Hakainde Hichilema lothanza kuwina lukhethwa kulela live emavikini lamabili lengcile lebe bakhona kutoyomukela umhlonishwa ndivunankulo tindvuna tembuso ndivunankulo abika ngehambo lwakhe uthi umsebenzi uchubeke kahle kakhulu kanti ke ungenelwe tinkulungwane tesive saseZambia nabo mengameli bemavela ngaphansi kwesifundza sakaSadak.
Sitawukhumbula ukuthi live laseZambia belinema elections nakusuka lenyanga nje lapha kungene khona lo president lomusha lothatha ku president Edgar Lungu. Lo president ke sowesikhombisa solo lelive lathola masibuse ngena ke na make president Mrs Mutale Nolumango loyo bang vice president. President lokhethiweke lokhulume kabandi enkulumeni yakhe yekubekwa ngekubambisana nje kutemnotho emaveni ala kulesigodi ngokuthi ke la kulete kutshala imali ungathi ngase kuqale kutshalwe khona la kule region kwakafunyelwa ngaphandle siphindeke sathola lithuba lokuthi sihlangane na president omabili nje lamave laseSwatini nalo lela laseZambia ukuthi sikhulumisane sithule nemibiko siwethule vele direct umbiko lobuye engwenyameni sasho ke kulo kunene ukuthi awu ingwenyama ikufisela iyakubongela futhi kufisela impumelelo kulo umsebenzi lo uthethe wabonga ke naye ke president wasiphinze wasiphathisa nemavi ukuthi awu simphathele wona si engwenyameni njengabantu labathunyiwe wakhombisa ke nekosikhali elivela kangwane uyaladi nasikhuluma nje nelulwimi lwakithi nje kulokunye kwathi nekukhuluma sabona cha vele ngipresident lobeka vele angumuntu otravelishayo ngiloyo ke umlayeto lesobuya nawo lela besambe khona sesitawuhamba ke siyowethula nje wabesithunyiwe
Mvelankulu-ke uzethi enkulumeni tabo namengameli lomusha babuke ekutheni lamavela amabili asebenzisane abambisane etinhlanganisweni etahlukahlukene kuqinisa ubudlelwano kulamavela amabili etindzabeni ngengiyani Msebenzise King Mswati the 3rd International Airport.
Donakulu Cleopas Dlamini uthi uhulumende utimisele ukuthi kwakhiwe umthetho letawusita ukuthi kwenziwe licwaningo lokucubungula tintfo letiphatselene nekusombulula tinkinga tetemphilo. Dlamini ke bekakhuluma emhlanganweni weticwaningo letemphilo lapho khona bekamelelwe khona indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza.
Live leSwatini libambe umhlangano wekucwaninga lokuphathelene netimphilo i-5th National Health Research Conference yalonyaka lehlanganise betemphilo labacwaningako labakha imigomo kanye netifundziswa kulabanye. Lo mhlangano walonyaka ubuke kakhulu telicwaningo lwetemphilo kulesikhathi semkhuhlane ye-COVID-19. Mvelankulu Cleopas Dlamini lobekamelelwe indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza uthi uhulumende uyibeka embili indzaba yekwakhiwa kwemigomo letawenta ukuthi licwaningo luhambe embili.
Siba uhulumende singuhulumende wembube nathi kumcoka ukuthi sibuke ukuthi yenziwa njani policy reform yelive ukuthi mhlawumbe sibuke tintfo letingasisita ngendlela lekhosako going forward kubanjiswane nawo onke mave ngaleto tindlela tekuthi njengoba sathi nje ukuthi nema vaccines nawo lesithi akhona because of yona le research. So ke umuntu uzama nje kusho ukuthi akukho umhlangano minister lobaluleke njengalo mhlangano lenhlangene ngawo.
Lonxusele live leMelika kuleli Jan Maloney uthi leMelika lifake imali lenganga 5 billion emalangeni kwelekelela live ukuthi lilwe netifo letfaka ekhathi HIV ne-AIDS kanye nesifo sesifuba sengati.
A nation's citizens are its most treasured resource, and our work together over the years has saved thousands of lives in this country and improved the quality of life for countless more.
Mhlangano bowubanjwe ngetebuchwephesha ngesizatfu semkhuhlane ye-COVID-19. Ndzabeni kubika sonto mlangeni nasamkelisiwe khoza ezulwini.
Induna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza seyinikete balimi umsebenzi wekuthuthukisa umkhicito wembila emabele kanye nemabhontjisi. Induna ke beyikhuluma nayivula umhlangano wenhlangano yebalimi Eswatini National Agricultural Union wekuthuthukisa ke emasu noma ke wemasu ekuthuthukisa abalimi labancane ehotela leHappy Valley esulwini.
Indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza kulomhlangano inikete balimi umsebenzi wekusebenta imase kuvala tikhala letikhona ekukhicitweni kwembila emabhontjisi kanye nemabele lathi live liyachubeka nekukuthenga ngelizinga lelisetulu ngaphandle. Uthi uhulumende kulomnyaka imali losetulu ufake imali lenganga 42 million emalangeni kwelekelela balimi ekukhuliseni umkhicito wembila emabhontjisi kanye nawo emabele.
Kule budget nje lena lesinayo nyalo uhulumende ngabo kubambisa abalimi usiphile futhi imali lenganga 42 million yekunisupporta nekunisekela kule program lesithi input subsidy. Labanengi baye bangayinaki ukuthi isupport lenkulu kakhulu le yekubambisana nebalimi labancane. 42 million ke lasiphe na uhulumende ukuthi sinibambise kule program embileni nasemabhontjisini nasekukhiciteni emabele even laseSwatini.
Lebekamele inhlangano emava labamhlophe e-European Union Robert Adams uthi le nhlangano itawuchubeka ibambise uhulumende ekuthuthukiseni balimi labancane.
The European Union has always had the opinion that Eswatini is endowed with adequate land and water resources to produce for both local consumption and export to global markets.
Lebekamele mengameli wenhlangano yebalimi Boy Mathebula uthi kude kunciphe inkinga letikhona letibhekene nabalimi uhulumende kumele asukumise isikhwama sekubasekela ngetimali kuphasiswe nemthetho losakhankanywa iEswatini Land Commercialization Bill. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza kunavuma inkosi Nsinisa ezulwini.
Induna yetemabhizinisi manqoba khumalo seyidumise inkampani lebukete emazinga kuleli Eswatini Standards Authority ngekusebenzisa tebuchwephesha ekusebenteni kwayo. Induna ke beyimelelwe umcondzisi wamabhizinisi lamancane kuleli tiko umlule Dlamini emsebentini obubanjelwe The George Kamanzini.
Inkampani yahulumende lebukete emazinga yeSwatini Standards Authority isukumise indlela noma ke luhlelo lwetebuchwephesha lapho khona emabhizinisi nato tonke ke tinkampani setawusebenzisa tekuxhumana kuthola lusito lwakaswasa bangadzingi kuya khona kaswasa ngaso sonke isikhathi ikakhulukati kunasi isikhathi semkhuhlane iCovid-19. Lolu hlelo lwatiwa nge-e-learning platform. Induna yetemabhizinisi manqoba khumalo lebeyimelelwe ngumcondzisi welihlangothi letemabhizinisi lamancane kuleli tiko Luleki Dlamini uyidumisile ke lendlela ekakhulu lendlela wathi itawusita na umkhuhlane iCovid-19 ukuthi ungabhebheteleki lapha eveni njengoba utenetinguquko letinengi ekusebenteni.
Siyathemba lokuthi lo msebenzi lona utawukhona lokuthi usite emabhizinisi nabo bonke labadzinga lusito kaswasa ngekuthi basikhona lokuthola lemisebenzi lena ngekuthi bangahambi bafike khona kaswasa yendeke lama trainings lawa ngekuthi bawathole through letekuchumana bakhona lokuthi balithole lelusito leli. Siyasho sithi singihulumende sithatha lelithuba leli lekubonga base-European Union labangekho nathi namuhla ngekuthi bafandele umsebenzi lona wekuthi le virtual platform igcine seyikhona ibe nginayileta khona kusita event. Sisaqhubeka siyasho lokuthi le platform lena ihlanganiswe ngekuthi ibuka tingoni letinengi ngekuthi isebenzisa ema-international organization standards la khona njengabo ISO nabo World Trade Organization nabo British Standard Institute. So lawa ngiwo onke lama platforms lasetshenzisiwe nakuhlanganiswa le training lena le standard based.
Sihlalo wakaswasa Edward Mswane uthe batimiseleke kuthuthukisa temazinga konke lokuthi singakalako kuthi kubambe emazinga yemhlaba.
We believe that the launch of the virtual platforms will enable all standards stakeholders in Eswatini to be able to participate effectively in the development of standards and also access training through the SWASA virtual platforms.
Emazinga kadlala inzima lenkulu kutemabhizinisi ngoba aqinisekisa ukuthi konke lokusesitolo nokuthengiswa kuleli kuphindze kuthengiselwa ngaphandle kubamba wona-ke emazinga labhekekile emhlabeni. Etindzabeni namuhla ngingugiyani Msibi ngisehhotela le-The George Kamanzini.
Induna elitiko letemfundo Lady Howard ivakashele etiko letimfica esifundeni saseshiselweni letalimala ngekushisa kulesimo lebesikhona eveni. Induna ke beyisingathwe ngemalunga endlu lebuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemfundo endlini yetimbunga nemalunga labuke kusebenta kwelitiko endlini yabayisikhulu.
Indvuna yelitiko letemfundo Lady Howard seyinxuse bothishela ukuthi babe ngemaphoyisa emikhuhlaneni yokuganga lefaka ekhatsi kushiswa kwetikolwa nekubulawa kwempahla etikolweni. Yethula inkulumo yayo embi kwabothishela besikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central lesabulawa emafastelo kulesimo lebesikhona eveni. Indvuna ixwayisela bothishela ukuthi abadlale inzima ekwelulekeni bantfwana ukuthi bangayingenelile imikhuba yokubulala impahla yahulumende.
Kuko konke lo lokuchubekako bantfwana bayasilimalela ngebehavior ngoba umfana uyakopa bese uyenda. So nginganxusa nje ukuthi lesikwendako konke lesikwendako asikhumbule ukuthi kunabantwana bayabuka. Sijabulile kukhanza kulesikole ukuthi madam unebudlelwane lobuhle nendlungulu. Uyapota konke lokwendeka kweendlungulu nendlungulu nayo iyambambisa. Siyacela ukuthi tonke etikolo bonke baphathi betikolo bakulingise lokho kuyinto lekahle ngoba tikolo tisemangweni bobabe boshifu ngibo lokufanele ukuthi banemabandla abo babambisane nesikolo nangabe sekunetinkinga.
Sihlalo welikomiti leli libuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemfundvo nekucecesha endlini yetimphunga Busi Dlamini wetfule tincwadzi kuthishela nhloko walesikolo letifaka ekhatsi umtsetfosisekelo National Youth Policy ne-Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund wamuncusa kutsi atiphe bonke bafundzi batifundze.
Ngihleli ngathi bantu abami lapha engiyakhona ngidabaphathelana ngacabanga i-constitution elive ngoba i-constitution elive ifana nelibhayibheli awuyifunzi linye langa uyidadisha uvula ngesicephu izingene emandleni ngase ngiphathela i-youth yalatikolo tonke ukuthi dingahlali dicabange lokubi kuphela nalokuhle kukhona la eveni bothisha letincwadzi ababafotokhephele ahlale ekhaya atifunze.
Thishela nhloko wesikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central Kusile Myeni ubonge indvuna ngekubavakashela.
Kusijabulise kakhulu njengalokho sekukhona yena ilusito lethu selidudane. Siyabonga kakhulu sipho lesiphiwe sona litiko lahamba nalo make. Letincwadzi sitawufunza siphindze futhi sendlulisele lwati nakubantwana bese letinye siyati photocopy lalapho kunema passages la ngangabo bantwana sitaba photocopyela. Tikolwa letivakashelwe tifaka ekhatsi isikolo lesiphakeme sakuMahamba, isikolo lesiphakeme sase-Ebenezer, isikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central, isikolo lesiphakeme saseVelebandvu, isikolo lesiphakeme sakanduna Zithini, isikolo lesincane saseJerusalema, isikolo lesincane saselulakeni nesikolo lesiphakeme sasekujabuleni. Kubika Sifiso Nxumalo ngina Smuva Shongwe siseNgwane Central.
Sikhumbuzo Sipho Thabethe senguye umphathi wenkampani yahulumende lengumlawuli wemandla kagesi kuleli Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority. Kanti ke Thabethe wethulwe ngosihlalo wabaqondzisi balenkampani Lungile Dlamini ehotela lesibane eZulwini.
Kulandzela kuthatha umhlala phansi kwemphathi wenkampani yahulumende lengumlawuli wemandla kagesi Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority Vusumuzi Mkhumane lenkampani seyibeke isikhumbuzo Sipho Thabethe njengemphathi lomusha. Akhuluma naketfulwa ngalokusemthethweni Thabethe wethembise kusebenta ngekukhandla aphinza athuthukise temandla lapha eveni.
By this I am humbled by the support of the board and look forward to the delivery which is expected of us as a team in this area to implement the indispensable role of balancing the multiple objectives of stakeholders in order to optimize the least cost service delivery and ensuring high quality and reliability of the supply of service in the energy industry space. It is paramount that one always remembers that energy costs are a precursor of inflation, and therefore it is important that we all manage their costs in order to drive our already fragile economy.
Etfula lomphathi lomusha sihlalwe baqondzisi balenkampani Lungile Dlamini uthi Thabethe ufike ngesikhathi lesifanele njengoba lenkampani isemkhankasweni wekwakha luhlaka lwekhicida kwemandla agesi lapha eveni.
Hence, this provides him with an excellent opportunity to influence the strategic direction of the authority and the energy industry in general. He also comes at a time when the regulator is transforming from being an electricity-only regulator to also taking over the regulation of downstream petroleum activities, following the promulgation of the Petroleum Act of 2020.
Thabethe usebente tikhundleni tebuholi tinkampani letifaka ekhatsi inkampani yemali Eswatini Water Services Corporation nenkampani yagesi Eswatini Electricity Company lapho asebente khona iminyaka le-13. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza nginavuma inkosi Nzinisa eZulwini.
Ibandla letekuvakasha i-Eswatini Tourism Authority selibonge tindlu tetindzaba kubabambisa ekuthenini ke tekuvakasha tichubeke tisebente lite umkhuhlane i-COVID-19 wendeke ukuthi kube likhunyana kusebenta kulolu hlangothi. Lelibandla ke belihlangene nabetindzaba kubukisana ngetindlela letinsha tekusebenta ngalokuphephile eRoyal Villa eZulwini.
Libandla letekuvakasha i-Eswatini Tourism Authority lihlangene nebetindlu letindzaba kubabonga ngendlela lebababambise ngayo basasebenta nekwatisa sive ngekuvakasha ngekhatsi eSwatini i-domestic tourism esikhatsini lapho khona umkhuhlane i-COVID-19 uvale emagede lokutsukamete lolu hlangothi kakhulu. Inhloso ke ukuthi kushiyelwa neligwayi nekuthi ke luchubeke njani lusebenze lolu hlangothi kulesimo lesikhona emhlabeni wonke. Umphathi walelibandla Linda Nxumalo uthi betindzaba bamcoka ekusebenteni kwabo.
Utawukhumbula Giyani ukuthi live laseSwatini like laba nemkhankaso wekusebenta indzaba COVID guidelines. Kuwa roll out lawo ma-guidelines bese ngeke sikhone kwenda kube i-media ayikhulumanga ngako ku-media. Sititholile i-response le-positive also from i-industry ngokuthi nabo sebayafuna ukuthi indzawo tabo tibe ngento letiphephile, tibe ngento letinakako ema-guidelines e-COVID kubekisa nje Giyani. So sathi kahle ke futhi ukuthi umuntu nangabe asuka eveni lakhe uqala afunze ngalelo live ukuthi le live likanjani. So singu Eswatini Tourism Authority sikhanza i-media imcoka kakhulu emsebentini lesiwendako. Namhla ke sitekto qinisa kakhulu ubudlelwane bethu ne-media, siphinze futhi sithi ku-media isibonise nathi singu-Eswatini Tourism ukuthi engabe vele singayibamba kanjani.
Sihlalo wenhlangano yetekuvakasha emahhotela kuleli Mark Ward uthi uyethemba ukuthi sekutawuba ngcono ngoba sive sesiyawujovela lo mkhuhlane, ngakho-ke sekutawuphepha sive siphinze sivakashe sijovile siphephile lapha eveni. Kanti sihlalo welikomiti letekuvakasha Christine Ndlovu uthi injongo yalo mhlangano ukuqinisa ubudlelwano nebetindzaba ngoba betindzaba bamcoka ekusebenzeni kwabo.
Without you, as media houses, there will be nobody will know what do we do Eswatini.
Uthi sive besingeke sathi ukuthi libandla lihlela ini, sive sente njani lokhu. Namhla ebe akusibo betindzaba lebe bahambisa imlayeto ngabe lo hlangothi luthikamede impela, kodwa ke betindzaba badlala inzima lenkulu. Bathi ke bahlose ukuthi betindzaba bababonisa ukuthi bangathuthuka ukudibhida inhlangothi kuthuthukisa tekuvakasha. Etindzabeni lamuhla ngingugiyani Msibing se-Royal Villas eZulwini.
Kutemidlalo Mesha kuzwane loqeqesha aphinza abuke ukuthuthukisa komdlalo wegaluva lapha Even. Uthi ke malungiselelo yabadlali bema under 18 ekubheka ukuthi bamelele live emidlalweni ye region 5 kulomnyaka bana ahamba kahle. Uthi ke zwane banalo lithemba lokuthi imidlalo nayiqala ngenyanga yengongoni batabe basezingeni lelifanele ukuthi bamelele live. Zwane bekakhuluma nalo msakado eMbabane.
Ngenyanga yengongoni kulomnyaka losetulu livele lesotho kubheka ukuthi libambe imidlalo ye region 5. Umdlalo legaluva uyingcinya lemidlalo lekubheka ukuthi idlalo kule midlalo. Mesha kuzwane loqeqesha aphinza abuke inhlelo tekuthuthukisa lo mdlalo kubadlali abancane uthi emalungiselelo kwanyalo ahamba kahle futhi badlali bakhomba ukudimisela.
So we are doing very well. It's just that this thing about COVID. Sometimes we have a problem with they can't come in big numbers because we've got to avoid the groups. But still, we are able to start train individual. Like now, this morning I've hit a few Bomongi, where to Nabo Manilamin in the morning. So we are training, but it's just blind because cats, we can't group them. So we've got to do them individual because we are avoiding Logutsiba, yes, because of COVID. But we're having also challenges with the girls. Because when you train them, once by figure 14, most of the time, there's a lot that is involved. They change. They want to do something else.
Abadlali bafake ikhathi especially Mhlanga kanye namongi wethu Masuku. Zwana uphethe ngekuveta ukuthi nakuqala lemidlalo labadlali batabe balungele ukuthi bangamelela live. Lobikela umsakade Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini na Fabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Ngosastephethe tekuqala telisuku kulo hlelo Kusile breakfast show. This is Kusile, good morning. Let's take a quick commercial break. Masibuya ke sinembikolo qhamuka ke etiko letempilo. Noma ke etiko letempilo wakamhlaba iWorld Health Organization. Let's take a look after the break. This is Kusile, good morning.
There's so much to learn and see in the kingdom of Eswatini. Sifuna futhi sikhuthata kona ukuthi nawe wathi live lakho kabandi nalokuhle lokwendekako lapha eveni la Kangwane. Namambala uyabona mbukeli ukuthi indalo is a beautiful thing. Bukhulu baNkulunkulu buyabonakala ngendalo.
Babukeli behlelo embili kanye bayatisa ukuthi lo hlelo selitawusuka esikhatsini salo lesetayelekile ngensimbi yesithupha kusihlwa ngelisondvo. Lungeneke ngalo ke lisondvo mase eshaya gabanqa insimbi yesihlanu yentsambama 5:30. Kanti ke ngalosihlanu lo hlelo litawuchubeka lungene ngensimbi ye11 ekseni. Lo hlelo likhulumisa ke tindzaba tentuthuko nenhlala kahle kusukela emimangweni nasetinkhundleni lapho eMaswati aphila khona.
Whatever happens, whatever outcomes in any economy are by result of the interaction of the social, economic and political decisions.
Uphakamise likhulumise dona ke tindzaba temnotfo intuthuko nenhlala kahle esigabeni sahulumende.
Kepha ke lokumgcoka buyakhulunyiswana nawe ibuka wena uyisola lento ukuthi akwentiwa ngani lokho wena so operator wena sekufuneka ukwente lokho banenge labo thilo kufuneka kuba cross
Siphinzeke sithinzeke tonke tinhlangothi letithinzekako nalethifaka ke sandla ekuthuthukiseni wona ke umnotfo nekusimamisa inhlala kahle eveni.
Ngetulu kwaloko vele netinombolo tiyatshengisa ukuthi bomake ngibo labagcinzeteleke kakhulu. Nasibuka nje ukuthi eParliament namuhla sinangakhi kwabomake. Bomake labakhethwa nga-2018 babili kuphela u59 wema constituency.
Yiba ingcenye yalo hlelo njalo njengelisondvo mase ishaya gabanqa insimbi yesihlanu entsambama nangabo lesihlanu ngensimbi ye11 ekseni.
Right, mbukele kulesikhathi samanje njengoba besishito ke before the break ukuthi kulesikhathi samanje sina Director General WHO Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus utabeka asichazela ngemhlangano lobo kwathi ukhona. Let's take a look.
Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. After increasing for nearly 2 months, the global number of COVID-19 cases and deaths was stable last week. But it's stable at a very high level, more than 4.5 million cases and 68,000 deaths. However, the situation is very different from region to region, country to country, province to province, and town to town. Some regions and countries continue to see steep increases in cases and deaths, while others are declining. As long as this virus is circulating anywhere, it's a threat everywhere. There are no shortcuts. WHO continues to recommend a comprehensive, risk-based approach of proven public health and social measures in combination with equitable vaccination. Even as we remain focused on ending the pandemic, WHO is moving forward with plans to understand its origins. Last Friday, we issued an open call to scientists around the world to apply to the new Strategic Advisory Group for the Origins of Novel Pathogens, or SEGO. SEGO will be composed of experts acting in their own capacity, not as representatives of member states, and will play a vital role in studying the emergence of new pathogens, including the next phase of studies into the origins of SARS-CoV-2. We encourage all qualified professionals to apply. We need the best people to be part of this important new advisory group. I wish to emphasize that SEGO will not delay the progress of the studies into the origins of SARS-CoV-2. The report of the international team published in March outlined a number of studies that can be taken forward without delay. We have encouraged all parties to pursue those studies. Even as we continue our work to understand how this pandemic started, we're also moving ahead with plans to strengthen the world's defenses against future epidemics and pandemics. As you know, there have been several reports with many recommendations for how to do this, including the report of the Independent Panel on Pandemic Preparedness and Response, the Review Committee of the International Health Regulations, the Independent Oversight and Advisory Committee of the WHO Health Emergencies Program, and others. Most recently, the G20 established a high-level independent panel on financing the global commons for pandemic preparedness and response. The panel published its report last month, and it's now my great pleasure to welcome the Senior Minister of Singapore, His Excellency Tharman Shanmugaratnam, the co-chair of the panel, and will present its recommendations. This report has much in common with the other reports and recommendations that have been published in recent months. They all recognize the need for better global governance of pandemic preparedness and response. They all recognize the need for better systems and tools to prevent, prepare for, detect, and respond rapidly to epidemics and pandemics. They all recognize the need for better financing for global preparedness and response, including for global goods such as vaccines. And they also recognize the need for a strengthened, empowered, and sustainably financed WHO at the center of the global health architecture. With 194 member states and 152 country offices, WHO has a unique global mandate, unique global reach, and unique global legitimacy. With the UN General Assembly in September, the G20 Summit in October, and the special session of the World Health Assembly in November, the next 3 months will be a critical period for shaping the future of pandemic preparedness and response. Whatever structures and mechanisms emerge, WHO believes they must be grounded in several core principles. They must have the engagement and ownership of all countries. They must be linked to and aligned with the constitutional mandate of WHO, rather than creating parallel structures which could lead to further fragmentation of the global health architecture, as the senior minister said. They must involve partners from across the One Health spectrum, including animal and environmental health, civil society, and the private sector. They must ensure coherence with the international health regulations and other international instruments, and they must be accountable. WHO is committed to working with all 194 of our member states to build a global system to better protect all people in all countries. Finally, although the world's attention is rightly focused on ending the COVID-19 pandemic, there is another epidemic that will continue to kill millions of people every year. Cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death globally, and hypertension is one of its main risk factors. More than 1.2 billion people live with hypertension. I'm one of them, but I am one of the lucky ones, with good access to medicines, understanding my condition, and making sure it's controlled. That's why I said I'm the lucky one. The same is not true for most others with hypertension. A new study led by Imperial College London and WHO published today estimates that almost half of all people with hypertension don't know they have it, and only 1 in 5 have it under control. We have the tools to prevent, diagnose, and manage hypertension. Our challenge is to make sure everyone with hypertension has access to those tools. Today, WHO launched a new guideline for the pharmacological treatment of hypertension in adults, which presents the most up-to-date evidence-based recommendations on managing hypertension. This new guideline provides recommendations on the level of blood pressure at which it is appropriate to start medication, what types of medicine or combination of medicines to use, what level of blood pressure to target, and how often follow-up checks are needed. Pharmacological treatment should always be combined with healthier diets and regular physical activity. More strictly, controlling tobacco products and identifying and treating comorbidities such as diabetes and pre-existing heart disease. Indeed, Singapore is a good example of a country that has taken concerted action to reduce hypertension and heart disease with a bill that will ban the use of artificial trans fats, a leading contributor to hypertension and heart disease, from its food supply by this year. WHO's new guideline is another example of our commitment to our mission to promote health, keep the world safe, and serve the vulnerable.
Alright, Mbukeli Loyo Begongu Director General wenhlangano yakamhlaba yetempilo WHO Tedro asiniketa nje aniketa ke tinsathele emhlangano nebetindzaba update ngawo umkhuhlane COVID-19 kunye nje laveta ukuthi ema dates lamanengi abangwa ukuthi labo labatfola umkhuhlane COVID-19 basuke bana tifo letingathelelwani rather sorry lasho ukuthi ngikulo kuba ukuthi bese kuba nema dates langaka tifo lefaya khathi bo diabetes kanye nabo hypertension.
Ujalo Mbukeli uyachaza nje ukuthi ema non-communicable diseases ngilamanye labonakala kwangazuthi anyusa ke lelizinga lekushiya emhlabeni kwabantu lasakunakile nje uthi ke kodwa uyakhuthatha ukuthi abantu abachubeke bashukumisa umtimba regular training and healthy diets as well.
Yes, all right. Lesikhathi Mbukeli sitawungena kuma questions and answer session ngiyolo mhlangano ka WHO.
It's not the time to give up anywhere at any reaches of the planet. There's so much that we can do to control transmission, including the Delta variant. Vaccines and vaccination are the latest incredibly powerful tool that we have that save lives. I get asked a lot, why should I get the vaccine? Because it will save your life. If you get the vaccine, if you get the full doses of those vaccines, it can save your life. It can prevent you from developing severe disease and needing hospitalization, and it can save your life from dying from infection with the SARS-CoV-2 virus. But not everybody has access to that vaccine. And while the vaccines are incredibly effective against severe disease and death, we have all of these other measures that also keep us safe and prevent the virus from spreading. And this is things that you can do quite simply, of keeping your distance from others. I know that we want to be socially connected with others, but we can remain physically distant from them while still keeping that social connection. And I know how hard this is 20 months into a pandemic. We all understand that, but it's about keeping your hands clean. It's about wearing a mask and making sure that you wear a mask over your nose and your mouth. It's fitted properly. It has the right filtration. You can still breathe while wearing it. Avoiding crowded spaces, especially indoors, because we know the virus could spread more easily indoors, especially where there's poor ventilation. Open the windows if you're indoor, have good cross ventilation of getting fresh air in, spend more time outdoors than indoors. But if you are spending time outdoors, also avoid crowds outdoors as well. All of these measures are critically important in keeping us safe. And it's not just about you, it's about your loved ones. So what you do to keep yourself safe also helps you keep your loved ones safe. So it is absolutely not the time to give up. We should erase that from our memories and think about how we can continue to live our lives, because of course we have to go to work. We have to have groceries and feed our families, but keep ourselves safe throughout the day. We have this campaign of know your risk, lower your risk. So what is it that you have to do every day? What are the things that you could postpone doing? And then how do you do that in the most safe way possible?
All right, so that was the technical director at WHO, Maria Van Kerkhove. She's answering questions from journalists, and the question is buyagiyo ithi-ke abantu abaningi abasayilandzeli kakhulu imigomo ye-COVID-19 ngesizatfu sokuthi sekuyimvula sebayenda everyday lese bakhathata. So babutile ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe bamfu bangachubeka nema regulations labeko WHO noma cha.
Kujalo lungelele umbuto lophinze walandzela what is the data around face shields and face masks in the fight against COVID-19?
So our recommendations are very strong on masks. We continue to advise the use of masks, even if you're vaccinated, because we know some individuals can get infected while being vaccinated and potentially spread the virus to others. So until we have a full picture on that, we advise on wearing masks. Face shields offer a different kind of protection. Our recommendation is for medical professionals to wear masks and to wear respirators, but for the general public to wear either a medical mask if you are have underlying conditions or of an older age, so above 60, but to wear a fabric mask if you are under 60, if you don't have underlying conditions. But the fabric masks need to be 3 layers is what we recommend. It's all about fit, filtration, and breathability. And so the masks offer that barrier. So if you're infected, to pass droplets and aerosols to others, that mask provides a barrier. The face shield provides an immediate barrier for those droplets, but obviously, the aerosols can spread around that. So our recommendation is for the masks. However, there are certain populations that a face shield would be better.
All right, so the third question that was asked by the journalist was, Goguti, there are many countries that are struggling to get a vaccine, especially in Africa. So by budile inhlangano WHO Goguti ingabe yini le yendako konda ngcono lesimo lesi.
This is a good question. I'm looking at the latest numbers that we have here. We have seen there were about 150,000 cases reported from the African continent. It's a big continent, many different countries. In the last 7 days. That's about a 3% decline. And we've had about an 11% decline in deaths reported in the last week. But we do know across the continent, there is less access to testing, to the tests themselves, to supplies, personal protective equipment, like we've just been talking about, masks and respirators and equipment that medical professionals need, goggles, gloves, to be able to care for COVID-19 patients and patients suffering from other diseases. There's less access to oxygen, and there's certainly less access to the vaccine. And one of the things, we're advocating and working towards better access, better delivery, better use of all of those materials across the continent. We're working with our regional office, the African Regional Office and Africa CDC, and many partners in countries to be able to do that with many partners as well. But I just want to touch upon the vaccine, access to the vaccine. There's a lot of news lately about boosters or, in receiving third doses for people who've already received their first and second doses. And this is really causing some challenges. I mean, there's no sugarcoating of saying this. We need people in all countries to receive their first and second doses, especially those who have underlying conditions. The goal of the vaccine is to prevent severe disease and death. This is what they work. This is how they work. This is what they intend to do. And we need people across the continent of Africa who have underlying conditions, who are over 60, who work on the front lines to receive their first and second doses before others receive that third booster dose, because they're already protected. And the vaccines are working very, very well against severe disease and death, including against the Delta variant. And I think that's really important because even though, others, and I'm not talking about those individuals who need that third dose, like immunocompromised patients. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about mass use of the third dose or a booster for people who are already well protected. We live in a global world. I mean, it's obvious to say we need global solutions for a global problem. We will not solve this problem at a national level. And I just want to make one other point. The idea that we can protect one population fully without protecting the rest of the world is a false sense of security, because we have these variants that are emerging. We have a completely interconnected world, and many people are traveling right now. And viruses travel in people. So we're moving the virus around, and we can see that through a lot of the genetic sequencing work. There's some beautiful work that was done looking last summer in the Northern Hemisphere. And you can see how the virus was circulating through people traveling over the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. And that will happen again. This is not, a theoretical risk. It's a real risk that we're seeing right now. So the idea that you can fully protect one population without protecting the rest of the world is a false sense of security. The virus is evolving. It will continue to evolve. We will have more virus variants if we allow it to continue to circulate. So we need to protect the world are most at risk first in all countries before we start giving these boosters in just a subset, in some populations.
Kunjalo Mbukeli, and another question that was asked was around children and face masks, and the question was, what is the proper way of using my face masks on children?
So our recommendation for the use of 12 and up is in the area where you're living, if the virus is circulating, to wear a mask, a fabric mask, a 3-layer fabric mask over your nose and mouth, well fitted, where you cannot assure the physical distancing, where you're coming in contact with other people. And if you're indoors and you don't know if there's good ventilation, put on a mask, open the windows, but wear a mask indoors. For the ages of 6 to 11, our recommendation is to take a risk-based approach. So depending on where you are, depending on how much virus is circulating, depending on the setting, and how well you can help the child to wear that mask, it would be a context-specific recommendation. Some countries, some places are recommending masks for this age group, but children do need to be taught how to wear a mask. My child, we teach him how to put on the mask safely, take off the mask safely, make sure that he does it with clean hands, and make sure when he wears it, he doesn't wear it here or ill-fitting. And it's really about sort of behavior and teaching how to do that. We don't recommend the use of a mask for 5 and under. And this is for several different reasons. Part of it is for compliance. Just being able to have that age group wear a mask consistently and safely. Although I have heard from many people that said, well, I can teach my kid to do that. That's fine. But children of that age need to be supervised, especially the really, really young ones, because there is a risk of a choking hazard. So you have to be really careful in that age group to make sure that they're monitored and supported in wearing that mask. But it's about behavior change. And a lot of us now, we always have clean masks on hand. We have our hand gel, that we use. We keep our hands clean, and we've learned how to live with this. We've learned how to do this. It doesn't mean we're going to do this forever. But I think the people have been very resilient in this space.
All right. One journalist wanted to find out that what are the best conditions to consider, particularly because many places are reopening schools. So what are the best conditions to consider when reopening schools?
So this is a great question because, there are still millions of children that are out of school. And there are millions of children that have not been in school for more than a year. And we all know the critical importance of school for kids, not just for education, but for their mental well-being, for their safety, their security. And in many situations, this is where they receive food. I've said this over and over again. But we have seen in many countries the safe reopening of schools and the staying open of schools. Our recommendations, it's about controlling transmission in the community. Schools operate in communities. They're not isolated facilities. The people who work in those facilities are people who live in the communities. And, so we have to start by controlling transmission in the communities. Where vaccination is offered, we recommend vaccination according to the priorities, especially adults and those with those underlying conditions. And it's about schools having plans in place. So, for example, how would you identify a potential case in that school? What would the surveillance look like in that school and the contact tracing? How would you inform parents? How do you inform and educate and listen to children in those schools so that they are part of that plan? How do you ensure that you have the right environmental controls, disinfection, distancing in the classrooms, less mixing among students? And I know that's very hard, especially with the younger, but the older kids, it's also about physical distancing and not congregating. It's about good ventilation in schools. And many schools around the world have figured out a way to open and stay open. And so this is really, really, really critical that we prioritize the opening of schools and that we prioritize all of our efforts in the communities to keep those schools open.
Right, Mbugeli, and one last question that the journalist wanted to find out was about the worry around the Delta variant. Are there any changes? How worried should people be about the Delta variant, and are there any changes to this new variant?
So we have the Delta variant that we are tracking globally, and it's been reported in more than 140 countries worldwide. And if it is not already, it is likely to become the dominant variant that is circulating. But the virus does continue to evolve, and there are some sublineages that we're tracking. We don't use that phrase Delta plus, but we are looking. There are a bunch of scientific names for these variants and all of these mutations, which I won't go into here, which is why we're actually using the Greek alphabet. But I think from a public point of view, any SARS-CoV-2 virus that is circulating in your area, you should treat as a dangerous virus, regardless of what it is. But also know that you have some control over your exposure to that virus, whether it's Delta or whether it's another variant that may emerge. And I think that's what I want people to hear, is that we are working with scientists around the world to track these mutations. And there are several sublineages of Delta that we are looking at, because the virus will continue to evolve. Unfortunately, the Delta variant will be the last variant you'll hear us talk about, but know that there are things that we can do to minimize its spread. And this is about the public health and social measures. It's about what we do at an individual level, what we do in communities. We stay home if we can work from home. A lot of people are still teleworking, and that's great, and that has a positive impact on, as long as you can do that, but has a positive impact on the environment. But many people can't do that. So if we can stay home, for those who have to go out and do their work, it puts less pressure on them. There are less people on public transportation. We have to continue to wear our mask, avoid those crowded spaces. And I think some people feel that this pandemic is over, and some people are acting like this pandemic is over. And I'm afraid it's far from over. It's not. So keep it up, keep doing these individual level measures. I mean, a lot of it is a bit of an inconvenience, but it's what you can do to save your life and save the life of a loved one. So please, we need everybody's help. We need everyone to play their part in this pandemic. We have an entire global army to fight and combat this virus. And I know I don't mean to use a war analogy on this, but we need to have that solidarity against this virus. And we really need to do that. We need that global solidarity of the same drive and fight against this virus. And everyone has a role to play.
All right, that was the technical director at WHO, Dr. Maria Van Kerhove, during a question and answer session with journalists. Mbulwanyana sawuthatha nje sitawubuka masinyane letolethamba embili kulamanye emave siyayivena se-Afghanistan njengoba itolo uphumile umbiko ukuthi kube nema explosions lapho khona kubika ukuthi kushone bantfu labangemashumi lasithupha, 60 people.
A defiant warning by Joe Biden.
We will hunt you down.
Following the deadliest day for American troops in Afghanistan in over a decade. Thursday's attack on the Kabul International Airport was a major blow for the Biden administration, which has been ramping up evacuations ahead of its scheduled military pullout on August 31st. Yet the U.S. president stood by the deadline and vowed the evacuations would continue as planned.
We will rescue the Americans in there. We will get our Afghan allies out. We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation.
Meanwhile, U.S. troops on the ground remained on high alert as the Pentagon said it was expecting more attacks in the coming days. It also vowed to retaliate against the Islamic State group, which claimed responsibility for the bombings.
We believe it is their desire to continue those attacks, and we expect those attacks to continue. And we're doing everything we can to be prepared for those attacks. We will go after them. We've been clear all along that we're going to retain the right to operate against ISIS in Afghanistan.
The deaths of U.S. personnel were likely to pile domestic pressure on Joe Biden, whose decision to pull out from Afghanistan has been met with fierce criticism. Several Republican lawmakers have already called on Congress to delay the military withdrawal until all Americans are out of the country.
Right, mbukeli kulesikhathi samanje, let's take a quick commercial break. Masibuya siqhubeka naDkt. Nzaba. This is Kusile. Good morning.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Mr. V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini mobile imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Mbukeli sikuvusele siphinde sikwamukele Dkt. Nzaba tesibili telisuku kulohlelo Kusile breakfast show lethulela umsakazo wetithombe Eswatini TV sibuka samaswati lameli betonge ngisanephoya wancwana singene ngitoke Nzaba. Umhlonishwa uNdunankulu Cleopas Dlamini sewubuyile ke evene emva kokube ngenele umcimbi wekufungisa kwamangameli lomusha welive laseZambia Hakainde Hichilema lapho khona bekamelele khona silo semhlaba ingonyama inkosi eMswati wesithathu. Ndunankulu ke ufikele esikhumulweni setindiza eKing Mswati the 3rd International Airport.
Umhlonishwa Ndunankulu Cleopas Dlamini sewubuyile ekhaya lapho bekayongenela khona umsebenzi wekufungiswa kwamengameli lomusha welive leZambia Hakainde Hichilema lothanza kuwina lukhethwa kulela live emavikini lamabili lengcile lebe bakhona kutowemukela umhlonishwa Ndunankulu tindvuna tembuso. Ndunankulu abika ngehambo lwakhe uthi umsebenzi uqhubeke kahle kakhulu kanti ke ungenelwe tinkulungwane tesive saseZambia nabo mengameli bemavela ngaphansi kwesifundza sakaSadak.
Sitawukhumbula ukuthi live laseZambia belinema elections nakusuka lenyanga nje lapha kungene khona lo president lomusha lothatha ku president Edgar Lungu. Lo president ke sowesikhombisa solo lelive lathola mazibuse ngena ke na make president Mrs Mutale Nolumango loyoba ngu-vice president. President lokhethiwe ke lo khulume kabandi enkulumeni yakhe ekubekwa ngekubambisana nje kutemnotho emaveni ala kulesigodi ngokuthi ke la kulete kutshala imali ungathi ngase kuqale kutshalwe khona la kule region kwakafunyelwa ngaphandle. Siphinzeke sathola lithuba lokuthi sihlangane na president omabili nje lamave laseSwatini nalo laseZambia kuthi sikhulumisane sithule nemibiko siwethule vele direct umbiko lobuye engwenyameni sasho ke kulo kunene ukuthi awu ingwenyama ikufisela iyakubongela futhi kufisela impumelelo kulo umsebenzi lo uthethe wabonga ke naye ke president wasiphinze wasiphathisa nemavi ukuthi awu simphathele wona si engwenyameni njengabantu labathunyiwe wakhombisa ke nekosikhale livela kangwane uyaladi nasikhuluma nje nelulwimi lwakithi nje kulokunya kwathi nekukhuluma sabona cha vele ngipresident lobeka vele angumuntu otravelisha ngiloyo ke umlayeto lesubuya nawo lela besambe khona sesitawuhamba ke siyowethula njengoba besithunyiwe.
Mvunankulu-ke usethi enkulumeni tabo namengameli lomusha babuke ekutheni lamavili amabili asebenzisane abambisane etinhlangothini letahlukahlukene kuqinisa ubudlelwano kulamavili amabili. Etindzabeni ngingiyani Msebenzise King Mswati the 3rd International Airport.
Mvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini uthi uhulumende utimisele ukuthi kwakhiwe umthetho noma ke kwentiwe licwaningo letekucubungula tintfo letiphatselene nekusombulula tinkinga tetempilo. Dlamini ke bekakhuluma emhlanganweni wetelicwaningo lotempilo lapho bekamelele khona indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza.
Live leSwatini libambe umhlangano wekucwaninga lokuphathelene netimpilo i-5th National Health Research Conference yalonyaka lehlanganise betempilo labacwaningako labakha imigomo kanye netifundziswa kulabanye. Lo mhlangano walonyaka ubuke kakhulu telicwaningo lwetempilo kulesikhathi semkhuhlane ye-COVID-19. Mvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini lobekamelelwe indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza uthi uhulumende uyibeka embili indzaba yekwakhiwa kwemigomo letawenta ukuthi licwaningo luhambe embili.
Siba uhulumende singuhulumende wembuke nathi kumcoka ukuthi sibuke ukuthi yenziwa njani policy reform yelive ukuthi mhlawumbe sibuke tintfo letingasita ngendlela lekhosako going forward. Kubanjiswane nawo onke mave ngaleto tindlela tekuthi njengoba sathi nje ukuthi nema vaccines nawo lesithi akhona because of yona le research. So ke umuntu uzama nje kusho ukuthi akukho umhlangano minister lobaluleke njengalo mhlangano lenhlangene ngawo.
Lo nxusele live leMelika kuleli Jan Maloney uthi leMelika lifake imali lenganga 5 billion emalangeni kwelekelela live ukuthi lilwe netifo letfaka ekhathi HIV ne-AIDS kanye nesifo sesifuba sengati.
A nation's citizens are its most treasured resource, and our work together over the years has saved thousands of lives in this country and improved the quality of life for countless more.
Mhlangano bowubanjwe ngetebuchwephesha ngesizatfu semkhuhlane ye-COVID-19. Ndzabeni kubika sonto mlangeni nasamkelisiwe khoza ezulwini.
Indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza seyinikete balimi umsebenzi wekukhulisa ke umkhicito wembila emabele kanye nemabhontjisi. Indvuna ke beyikhuluma emhlanganweni wenhlangano yebalimi i-Eswatini National Agricultural Union wemasu kuthuthukisa dona tekulima nebalimi labancane ehotela leHappy Valley ezulwini.
Indvuna yetekulima Jabulani Mabuza kulomhlangano inikete balimi umsebenzi wekusebenta imase ekuvala tikhala letikhona ekukhicitweni kwembila emabhontjisi kanye nemabele lathi live liyachubeka nekukuthenga ngelizinga lelisetulu ngaphandle. Uthi uhulumende kulomnyaka imali losetulu ufake imali lenganga 42 million emalangeni kwelekelela balimi ekukhuliseni umkhicito wembila emabhontjisi kanye nawo emabele.
Kule budget nje lena lesinayo nyalo uhulumende ngabo kubambisa balimi usiphile futhi imali lenganga 42 million yekunisupporta nekunisekela kule program lesithi input subsidy. Labanengi baye bangayinaki ukuthi isupport lenkulu kakhulu le yekubambisana nebalimi labancane. 42 million ke lasiphe na uhulumende ukuthi sinibambise kule program embileni nasemabhontjisini nasekhiciteni emabele even laseSwatini.
Lebekamele inhlangano emava labamhlophe e-European Union Robert Adams uthi le nhlangano itawuchubeka ibambise uhulumende ekuthuthukiseni balimi labancane.
The European Union has always had the opinion that Eswatini is endowed with adequate land and water resources to produce for both local consumption and export to global markets.
Lebekamele mengameli wenhlangano yebalimi Boy Mathebula uthi kude kunciphe tinkinga letikhona letibhekene nabalimi uhulumende kumele asukumise isikhwama sekubasekela ngetimali kuphasiswe nemthetho losakhankanywa i-Eswatini Land Commercialization Bill. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika samkelisiwe khoza kunavuma inkosi Nsinisa ezulwini.
Induna temabhizinisi Manqoba Khumalo seyidumise inkampani yetemazinga kuleli Eswatini Standards Authority ngekusebenzisa buchwephesha ekusebenzeni kwayo. Induna ke bemelelwe umcondzisi wetemabhizinisi lamancane kuleli tiko Mluleki Dlamini emsebentini lokubanjelwe eThe George kaManzini.
Inkampani yahulumende lebukete mazinga ye-Eswatini Standards Authority isukumise indlela noma ke luhlelo lwetebuchwephesha lapho khona emabhizinisi nato tonke ke tinkampani setawusebenzisa tekuxhumana kuthola lusito lwakaswasa bangadzingi-ke kuya khona kaswasa ngaso sonke isikhathi ikakhulukati kunaso isikhathi semkhuhlane i-COVID-19. Lolu hlelo lwatiwa nge-e-learning platform. Induna yetemabhizinisi Manqoba Khumalo lebeyimelelwe ngumcondzisi welihlangothi letemabhizinisi lamancane kuleli tiko Mluleki Dlamini uyidumisile ke lendlela ekakhulu lendlela wathi itawusita na umkhuhlane i-COVID-19 ukuthi ungabhebheteleki lapha eveni njengoba utenetinguquko letinengi ekusebenteni.
Siyathemba lokuthi lo msebenzi lona utawukhona lokuthi usite emabhizinisi nabo bonke labadzinga lusito kaswasa ngekuthi basikhona lokuthola lemisebenzi lena ngekuthi bangahambi bafike khona kaswasa yendeke lama trainings lawa ngekuthi bawathole through letekuchumana bakhona lokuthi balithole lelusito leli. Siyasho sithi singihulumende sithatha lelithuba leli lekubonga base-European Union laba ngekho nathi namuhla ngekuthi bafande lo msebenzi lona wekuthi le virtual platform igcine seyikhona ibe nginayo tawukhona kusita event. Sisaqhubeka siyasho lokuthi le platform lena ihlanganiswe ngekuthi ibuka tingoni letinengi ngekuthi isebenzisa ema-international organization standards la khona njengabo ISO nabo World Trade Organization nabo British Standard Institute. So lawa ngiwo onke lama platforms la setshenzisiwe nakuhlanganiswa le training lena le standard based.
Sihlalo wakaswasa Edward Mswane uthe batimiseleke ukuthuthukisa temazinga konke lokuthi singakalako kuthi kubambe emazinga yemhlaba.
We believe that the launch of the virtual platforms will enable all standards stakeholders in Eswatini to be able to participate effectively in the development of standards and also access training through the SWASA virtual platforms.
Emazinga kadlala inzima lenkulu kutemabhizinisi ngoba aqinisekisa ukuthi konke lokusesitolo nokuthengiswa kuleli kuphindze kuthengiselwa ngaphandle kubamba wona-ke emazinga labhekekile emhlabeni. Etinzabeni namuhla ngengugiyani Msibi ngisehhotela leThe George kaManzini.
Induna yelitiko letemfundo Lady Howard ivakashele etikolo letimfica esifundeni saseshiselweni leTalimala kulesimo lesikhathi esikhona eveni. Induna ke beyisingathiwe ngemalunga labuke kusebenta kwalo litiko endlini yetimbunga kanye nemalunga labuke kona kusebenta kwalo litiko endlini yabayisikhulu.
Indvuna yelitiko letemfundo Lady Howard seyinxuse bothishela ukuthi babe ngemaphoyisa emikhuhlaneni yokuganga lefaka ekhatsi kushiswa kwetikolwa nekubulawa kwempahla etikolweni. Yethula inkulumo yayo embi kwabothishela besikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central lesabulawa emafastelo kulesimo lebesikhona eveni. Indvuza ixwayisela bothishela ukuthi abadlale inzima ekwelulekeni bantfwana ukuthi bangayingenelile imikhuba yokubulala impahla yahulumende.
Kuko konke lo lokuchubekako bantfwana bayasilimalela ngebehavior ngoba umfana uyakopa bese uyenda. So nginganxusa nje ukuthi lesikwendako konke lesikwendako asikhumbule ukuthi kunabantwana bayabuka. Sijabulile kukhanza kulesikole ukuthi madam unebudlelwane lobuhle nendlunkulu. Uyapota konke lokwendeka kweendlunkulu nendlunkulu nayo iyambambisa. Siyacela ukuthi tonke etikolo bonke baphathi betikolo bakulingise lokho kuyinto lekahle ngoba tikolo tisemangweni bobabe boshifu nibo lokufanele ukuthi banemabandla abo babambisane nesikolo nangabe sekunetinkinga.
Sihlalo welikomiti lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemfundo nekucecesha endlini yetimphunga Busi Dlamini wetfule incwadzi kuthishela nhloko walesikolo letifaka ekhatsi umtsetfo sisekelo National Youth Policy ne-Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund wamunxusa ukuthi adiphe bonke bafundzi batifunze.
Ngihleli ngathi bantu abami lapha engiyakhona ngidabaphathelana ngacabanga i-constitution elive ngoba i-constitution elive ifana nelibhayibheli awuyifunzi linye langa uyidadisha uvula ngesicepho izingene emandleni. Ngase ngiphathela i-youth yalatikolo tonke ukuthi dingahlali ticabange lokubi kuphela nalokuhle kukhona la eveni. Bothisha letincwadzi ababafotokhephele ahlale ekhaya atifunze.
Thishela Nhloko wesikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central Kusile Myeni ubonge indvuna ngekubavakashela.
Kusijabulise kakhulu njengalokho sekukhona yena ilusito lethu selidudane. Siyabonga kakhulu sipho lesiphiwe sona litiko lahamba nalo make. Letincwadzi sitawufunza siphindze futhi sendlulisele lwati nakubantwana bese letinye siyati photocopy lalapho kunema passages la ngangabo bantwana sitaba photocopyela.
Tikolwa letivakashelwe tifaka ekhatsi isikolo lesiphakeme sakumahamba, isikolo lesiphakeme sase-Ebenezer, isikolo lesincane saseNgwane Central, isikolo lesiphakeme sasevele Bandvu, isikolo lesiphakeme sakanduna Zithini, isikolo lesincane saseJerusalema, isikolo lesincane saselulakeni nesikolo lesiphakeme sasekujabuleni. Kubika Sifiso Nxumalo ngina Smuva Shongwe siseNgwane Central.
Sikhumbuzo Sipho Thabetse sengumphathi lomusha wenkampani yahulumende lengumlawuli wemandla agesi Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority. Kanti ke Thabetse wethulwe ngulungile Dlamini longusihlalo welibandla labacondzisi kule nkampani ehotel lesibane eSulwini.
Kulandzela kuthatha umhlala phansi kwemphathi wenkampani yahulumende lengumlawuli wemandla agesi Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority Vusmuzi Mkhumane lenkampani seyibeke isikhumbuzo Sipho Thabetse njengemphathi lomusha. Akhuluma naketfulwa ngalokusemthethweni Thabetse wethembise kusebenta ngekukhandla aphindza athuthukise temandla lapha eveni.
By this I am humbled by the support of the board and look forward to the delivery which is expected of us as a team in Eswatini to implement the indispensable role of balancing the multiple objectives of stakeholders in order to optimize the least cost service delivery and ensuring high quality and reliability of the supply of service in the energy industry space. It's paramount that one always remembers that energy costs are a precursor of inflation, and therefore it is important that we all manage their costs in order to drive our already fragile economy.
Etfula lomphathi lomusha sihlalo ebacondzisi balenkampani Lungile Dlamini uthi Thabetse ufike ngesikhathi lesifanele njengoba lenkampani isemkhankasweni wekwakha luhlaka lwekhicida kwemandla agesi lapha eveni.
Hence, this provides him with an excellent opportunity to influence the strategic direction of the authority and the energy industry in general. He also comes at a time when the regulator is transforming from being an electricity-only regulator to also taking over the regulation of downstream petroleum activities, following the promulgation of the Petroleum Act of 2020.
Thabetse usebente tikhundleni tebuholi tinkampani letfaka ekhatsi inkampani yemali Eswatini Water Services Corporation nenkampani yagesi Eswatini Electricity Company lapho asebente khona iminyaka le-13. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza nginavuma inkosi Nzinisa eZulwini.
Libandla letekuvakasha iEswatini Tourism Authority libonga ke betindlu tetindzaba lekubabambisa ngokuthi tekuvakasha tichubeke tibe nguletiphephile tisebente lide lokho umkhuhlane iCovid-19 wendeke kwaba lukhuni kusebenta kulolu hlangothi. Libandla ke behlangane nabo betindlu tetindzaba kubukusana emasu ekusebenta ngalokuphephile emsebentini ke lobo ubanjelwe eRoyal Villas eZulwini.
Libandla letekuvakasha yeSwatini Tourism Authority lihlangene nebetindlu tetindzaba kubabonga ngendlela lebababambise ngayo basasebenta nekwatisa sive ngekuvakasha ngekhatsi eSwatini domestic tourism esikhatsini lapho khona umkhuhlane iCovid-19 uvale emagedeni lokuthukamete lolu hlangothi kakhulu. Inhloso ke ukuthi kushiyelwa neligwayi nekuthi ke luchubeke njani lusebenze lolu hlangothi kulesimo lesikhona emhlabeni wonke. Umphathi walelibandla Linda Nxumalo uthi betindzaba bamcoka ekusebenteni kwabo.
Utawukhumbula Giyani ukuthi live laseSwatini like laba nemkhankaso wekusebenta indzaba yema COVID guidelines. Kuwa roll out lawo ma guidelines bese ngeke sikukhona kwenda kube imedia ayikhulumanga ngako kumedia. Sititholile irresponse positive also from industry ngokuthi nabo sebayafuna ukuthi tindzawo tabo tibe ngito letiphephile tibe ngito leti tinakako ema guidelines eCovid kubekisa nje Giyani. So sathi kahle ke futhi ukuthi umuntu nangabe asuka eveni lakhe uqala afunze ngalelo live ukuthi le live likanjani. So singu Eswatini Tourism Authority sikhanza imedia imcoka kakhulu emsebentini leswendako. Namhla ke sitekto ukuqinisa kakhulu ubudlelwane bethu nemedia siphindze futhi sithi ku media isibonise nathi singe Eswatini tourism ukuthi engabe vele singayibamba kanjani.
Sihlalo wenhlangano yetekuvakasha emahhotela kuleli Mark Ward uthi uyethemba ukuthi sekutawuba ngcono ngoba sive sesiyawujovela lo mkhuhlane ngakho ke sekutawuphepha sive siphinze sivakashe sijovile siphephile lapha eveni. Kanti sihlalo welcommittee yetekuvakasha Christine Ndlovu uthi injongo yalo mhlangano ukuqinisa budlelwane nebetindzaba ngoba betindzaba bamgcoka ekusebenzeni kwabo.
Without you, as media houses, there will be nobody will know what do we do Eswatini.
Uthi sive besingeke sathi ukuthi libandla lihlela ini sive sente njani lokhu namhla ebe akusibo betindzaba lebe bahambisa imlayeto ngabe lo hlangothi luthikamete impela kodwa ke betindzaba badlala inzima lenkulu bathi ke bahlose nokuthi betindzaba bababonisa ukuthi bangathuthuka ukudibhida inhlangothi kuthuthukisa tekuvakasha. Etindzabeni lamuhla ngingugiyane Msibing se-Royal Villas eZulwini.
Ngakubona isidingo sekwakhiwa kwetikhwama letawusita ke bantu labahlelwe imisebenzi kuleli libandla ke lelibuketi indzaba tinhlalakahle yetisebenzi etiko letisebenzi nenhlalakahle belibambeke umhlangano wekubuka umbiko wekwakhiwa kwetikhwama letawusita ke bantu labalahlekelwe ngumsebenzi emhlanganweni lobobanjwe ngetebuchwepheshe lapho khona leli bandla beleluleka ngetindzaba nalo ke belikhona kulomhlangano.
Ngekubambisana emkhathini wahulumende kanye nenhlangano yakamhlaba yetisebenti i-International Labour Organization sekunembiko lohlanganiswe lapha eveni lotawusita ekuthenini tisebenti lesetiphelelwe ngumsebenzi tisitakale. Umcondzisi welihlangothi lwetenhlalakahle yetisebenti etiko letisebenti nenhlalakahle yato Magwabane Mdluli uthi lo mbiko utawusita ekwakheni isikhwama lesitawucondzana nebantfu labalahlekelwe ngumsebenzi ngesizatfu sekubhedvuka kumkhuhlane i-COVID-19.
Sigayidwa ngo-Convention 102 waka-ILO. Kuna-9 nje ma-social security benefits lefuna bekhona. Kunabo old age, bo-maternity, bo-sickness, bo-survivors, bo-employment injury, and so on and so on. What happened was litiko besolo lisebenta iqalela kha national social security policy nje isayathi uthi policy iye ithi kunenkinga lekhona la li-identify lithi emsebenzini abasakhona sekubonakala ukuthi hawu akuphangiseke manje kwendeke i-unemployment benefit scheme yabona ini wase-ILO yasisita ke usifakela $430,000 US and na lela ndvongeni wafaka 5 million ukuthi kuqwandinge leskimu sibonakale ukuthi sitawusebenza njani.
Lo mhlangano wekubuketa lo mbiko wemalanga lamabili kanti ke ubheke ukuthi uchubeke nangalesihlanu tindzabeni kubika sondomlangeni eMbabane.
Umphathi wamasipala esiteki Sithembile Simelane uthi lidolobha lekanye nabasomabhizinisi basesiteki lihlangene kutobonga ukuthi kulomsindo lebe ukhona eveni lo limited akhiwo tesive kude amabhizinisi noma impahla leyalimala kuleli dolobha. Simelane ke ukhulume lokhu ngesikhathi asemhlanganweni esiteki eholeni.
Kwendvulela sizilo lesiphakanyiswe elive kusukela ngalesine dolobha nabo bonke bosomabhizinisi basesiteki babambe umthandazo wekubonga nekumelana nato tonke timo letingehlelwa tibhekane nalo leli dolobha lasesiteki. Umphathi welidolobha lamasipala esiteki Sithembile Simelane ukukhulume lokhu ngesikhathi bahlangene nabo bosomabhizinisi basesiteki naletinye tinhlangothi letifaka ekhatsi emaphoyisa elihlangothini lolubuke tindzaba tekuvikela bucala.
Bafundisi bakubone kukuhle ukuthi bebangahlanganisa tinhloko babonge kuNkulunkulu ukuthi kuto tonke tehlakalo letendekile eveni recently but emabhizinisi lakhona esiteki akhona lekuphepha bachubeka ke sithandazana into letiningi letifaka ekhatsi kona kuvusa kwemnotho ukuze batochubeka abantu baphile nalokwendeke lokwendekile eveni lobekutsikameta emnotho nemabhizinisi. Kungaba kusho ukuthi ne-security yethu ifakile emandla yaqinisa lapha nalapha ukuze likhona idolobha nawo wonke amabhizinisi asedolobheni ukuthi achubeke aphephe.
Simelane uthi baphindze babuphana ngavilinye kokuthi bathatha iqinisa tekuphepha noma etimahleni noma emabhizinisini abo kuleli dolobha. Etindzabeni kubika Thembelihle Magutshwa Tfombe Ngithemba Shabangu esiteki eholeni.
Sewusukunyiswe ngalokusemthethweni umsebenzi wakho kweplaza eBuhleni kanti-ke lo msebenzi utawubita itigidzi letingama200 emalangeni 200 million emalangeni mapalane welcommittee lelibuke lidolobha laseBuhleni Gordon Mbuli uthi-ke leti tinyathelo labatithethe kulandzela ukuthi emakhosi alayitele ukuthi leli bandla lithuthukise leli dolobha.
Lo msebenzi usukunyiswa emveni kwekube kuphele omunye wekwakhiwa kweBuhleni Plaza iminyakeni lemithathu lendlulile kanti-ke utawufaka ekhatsi kwakhiwa kwesiteshi sapetilom lesita nenkampani yaka-Fuelex letawube icala kuba khona lapha eveni. Mapalane welikomiti lelibukele lidolobha Gordon Mbuli uthi bayathokota kubona leli dolobha lithuthuka ngalendlela.
Sibonga nesive ikakhulukazi thina emthombeni singileli bandla kelithunyiwe nguye umnikati welive uthuthukisa leli dolobha lapha eBuhleni. Sithatha kujabula kakhulu namhla nasitawusumsa lo msebenzi longabita lokungenani 200 million emalangeni kusukunyiswa liswati umsomabhizinisi weliswati njengoba kugcina kwethu lana ngeminyaka lemithathu lendlulile nasito ukuphakamisa kusuka komsebenzi weBuhleni Plaza bese namhla sekuyisibuko lesihle selive nelidolobha lalapha eBuhleni. Nanyalo ke sibuka kona ukuthi nalo msebenzi lona lesitosumisa namhla lo 200 million umsebenzi lota lishintsha kakhulu lesithombe saleli dolobha lapha eBuhleni. Siyabonga nje kuba bendlovu kakhulu
somabhizinisi waseBuhleni lokunguyena atawukwakha le plaza khanya Ndlovu ubonge emakhosi ukuthi angamethembe ekutheni kube khona lichaza langalidlala ekuthuthukeni kwaleli dolobha. Ngokusho kwaNdlovu lo msebenzi utawuvula emathuba emisebenzi lengemakhulu lamane.
Nakethu ngathi bayethu na phakathi emakhosini kona vele kube lihambo loludze kepha ke ngawo sesifikile lapha sesicala khona kusebenza.
Wona-ke utawuqhubeka ngetigaba letintsatfu sekucala kwakhiwa kwesiteshi sapetilom lesitawubita tigidzi letingamashumi 20 sesibili kwakhiwa kwesitolo semphahla yekwakha lesitawubita tigidzi letingamashumi 6 sesitsatfu kutawuba yindzawo yetitolo letahlukene pheceleti shopping complex letawubita tigidzi letingamashumi 95 kanti-ke kubheke ukuthi uphele eminyakeni lemithatfu letako. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV ngimpongos Magagula eBuhleni.
Inhlano yebantu labasha yeSwatini National Youth Council semkhankasweni wekuthi ama-youth centers abe tindzawo tekufundzela emakhono kubantu labasha baphindze-ke baphume namathulusi labatawasebentisa bangaphothula kuloko labakufundzele. Lokho-ke kuvakele ngalobuketi inhlelo kule nhlangano Dumisani Simelane.
Inhlangano yabantu labasha kuleli Eswatini National Youth Council isemkhankasweni wekuvusa ema-youth centers kude kuthi asite insha ukuthi ifundzele emakhono itithuthukise. Ama-youth centers ke lamanye bewasolo ahleti sewonakala ngenxa yokuthi kawasetshenziswa. Lobuketi inhlelo kule nhlangano Dumisani Simelane uthi bafisa ukuthi insha itithuthukise ngemakhono iphile.
Siyavakashela lema-youth centers sifuna kucala ngema-youth center lang-4 takhumbula ukuthi angi-16 seka-onke but sifuna kucala nga-4 simodele a new crop of programming. Now takhumbula ukuthi kula ma-youth centers itolo besende ema-youth centers lapho khona abantu abasha bafike bangene khona bahlale bathole lwati ikakhulu letiphathelene netempilo but nyalo we are remodeling le model yema-youth centers sifuna wakha ema-youth development centers lapho khona abantu labasha bangeke bafike bathole nje kuphela lusito noma ke lwati ngetempilo kodwa batawuthola nelwati lokuthi bangadiphilisa njani in terms of acquiring skills ngekwehlukana kwawo. Batawusilabantwana bangaphothula sitawubathengela ema-startup kits. Ngiyabekisa nangabe nje umplumber noma ke uyashisela uyawusina uphothula uphume nemshini wakho ukushisela nema-rods nesigcoko sekuvimba ukuthi ulimale emehlweni ngoba noshisela kuba naleli langabi leli limatemehlo. Uma ngabe umplumber uyawuphuma ne-toolbox yakho leta kusita ukuthi ukhona ukuchacha amapipe uwahlanganise amapipe. Uma ngabe undressmaker utawuphuma nemshini wakho wekuthunga ne-overlocker yakho. Ngiyabekisa nje ngetindvo letawenda kambamba kuyani. So sifuna lokuthi abantwana nabaphuma babe ready vele lokuthi bacala umsebenzi immediately. So lokhu kuyani kutaba i-pilot sitawupilota nje bese siyabuka ukuthi can we then if uphumelela le program lena can we replicate it to the other 16 youth centers.
Simelane ukuthi nensha lebeyi eSandton eSouth Africa kuyofunza ithekelelwati ngetemabhizinisi seyibuyileke kuleli wathi uyethemba ukuthi itawuba lusito ishela neligwayi nalabanye bonsanga yabo ukuthi bangadiphilisa njani babambe waphike emathuba etinzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi ngikaManzini.
Kutemidlalo licembu labomake leManzini Wanderers selikhale phasi emidlalweni walo wekucala endzabeni ye-Women CAF Champions League COSAFA qualifiers ngesikhathi ke litholana etulu ne-double action yaseBotswana. I-double action ke ihambe embili ngamagoli amathathu ecanzeni. Lo mdlalo ke udlalelwe eKings Wellington Stadium eThekwini eNingizimu Afrika. Right, mbukele ngaleto temidlalo tiyaguca desibili kulolu hlelo ikusile breakfast show. We shall take a quick commercial break. When we come back ilungelelo makakula unasanziso mathebula lwati kakhulu ke ngasense ku Zoom. Let's take a break.
Surprise! It's OK's Big Birthday Surprises. Win your share of 300,000 in instant cashback surprises. Buy any participating product and swipe to enter. Plus, get top-class soup, 2 for only $19.99, McCain Country Crop for just $31.99, and Yum Yum Peanut Butter for a surprising $49.99. Only at OK. Owners you can count on.
Kukhathi imbi yokuqeda i-HIV kanye namalale feva.
Kubika Sibusiso Ngubane anambongwa Dube kacoma indaba kalavumisa.
Ndizabente Eswatini TV ngilingithini kule ngambongwa Dube. Sithemba bani.
Eswatini Television, in partnership with Junior Achievement, brings you season 2 of Dream It Achieve It.
Lwati ngebhizinisi usiplan ibhala kanjani, ibhizinisi ifuna ini, utakuthola lokho kaJA balusito kakhulu.
Be empowered with marketing skills in your business and entrepreneurship so that you can prosper and build our growing economy. Watch Dream It Achieve It season 2 coming soon on Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
Gigi's at the movie store, haven't seen my life. I can't really say, hello everyone. This is who I am. But let's go. You want a piece of me? Yeah, you know you wanna with the boom boom pow. You ain't on my swag radar.
Alright, welcome back mbukeli selo bukela hlelo Kusile Breakfast Show singibukele nawe lothandza kusivulela njengoba bezivedile ukuthi sitakhulumisana lapha nemhlabeleli Sands ngemsebenzi labawendako lo watiwa ngekuthi the M10 Bushfire the collab the collab ke I digital event le connecta wona ama artists from Eswatini and South Africa. They will be live streaming their collaboration with an artist from South Africa who is Zolani, also known as the one who sings. Sitakhulumisana naye Sanziso lapha ngayo lengoma labayakhile na artist Zolani. Ukhona ke Sanziso ku Zoom, sinaye ku Zoom. Good morning and welcome Sanziso on Kusile Breakfast Show.
Morning. Vusele neba bukele makhaya.
All right. I understand you've been working with South African artist Zolani, famously known as the one who sings, on a song that will be live streamed today. The collab. Nangosichazela nje kabanti nje ukuthi ingabe vele mhlawumbe the collab ikuvulele njani nje emathuba, and how well are you working with Zolani?
Ngibongela lithuba. Well, the collab initiative lesuswe Bushfire to sort of grow and impact the arts industry digitally. Kule phase lesigiyo njoba sathi ukuthi abakhona phela ku hosta big shows because of the COVID-19 regulations. So for me, it opened a bigger door in terms of collaborator with one of the biggest artists in South Africa, chart topper. We all know her from way back in Freshly Crowned. Lokuseka solo nyalo, I'm the one who sings. So ngicabanga ukusinika lithuba lelikhulu lekukhulisa music wakangwane, kwekukhulisa music wase-Africa, neku-showcase music wethu all over the world.
Okay, as the collab is aimed at connecting and also uniting artists through music, are you and Zolani connecting Nisenda music when?
Luckily, me and Zolani had connected before the collab. So right now, it is more like a vision or a plan coming true. Thank God to Bushfire for actually empowering this collaboration. So ngicabanga ukusconnecte kakhulu sekunengi lesekutawuvela nasekuma careers ethu as we walk this path together, and I hope the song achieves even more than what we can imagine in terms of the international market and in terms of exposure to the international market in terms of music as well.
Okay, so tell us about this song that you've created. What kind of genre is it? Ikhuluma ngani nje nekuthi ma fans akho na ma fans akhe atayitfokotela yini?
Yes, indeed. One way I could explain it without kukhipha kakhulu info ukuthi it's something you cannot imagine. Now Umati Sense, Umati Zolani, we both left our comfortable zones to just create something that is world music. It's very international and it's a journey of a song that people will really, really enjoy. I can't wait for people to hear it. Ingoma le khuluma ngale timo lesibuya kito, khulume ngala sifuna kuyakhona, khulume nala ngala sikhona khona. It's mostly about fire. Kuthi njengoba sathi uthi umlilo ulethe bantfu kanye kanye, unite phinze fire is a purification method as well. So when you are tired of feeling lonely in this place, you just need fire. So that's what the song is about.
Ibona yini mhlambe uwenda letinye ingoma naye Zolani after the song that you've created with her?
Certainly siyatibona Stenda kuningi lokusekutawuvela nje lokuthi kuphelele ngoma le sithemba ukuthi kukhulu lokuseka as she moves on her solo journey, nami as I continue with mine, we just pray for the most to happen.
Now that you've created this song, Sanzi, so it would have been proper noma mhlambe beningakufokotela ukuthi ni perform in front of a large audience ingabe nje lokunyalo kunale COVID, because obviously you can't nidaba ni streamer live. Ingabe vele mhlambe kunikhinga yabeta kanganani nje as artists kokuthi anikhona ukuconnecta kahle nama fans enu niwaperformele kahle ngendlela lenjwayelekile. Kunlimata kanganani nje as artists?
To be honest, akusafani vele nakuqala. Ngicabanga lokunye lokuba inkinga nyalo kwekuthi asisakhona nje sonke naloku socialize. Ukuthi i-fulfillment ye-performance now uyenda as artist uyithola ngekuthi ubabone abantu embi kwakho, ubabone ba-reacta, ubabone bajabule, ubabone bashona phansi. But again, now that you can't see them, you are just hoping that you are actually healing people. As much as ungababoni kepha labalalele emakhaya lababukelako ubanalo lelithemba lokuthi cha uyabathinza uthemba ukuthi bayakuva futhi.
So seniyakhona anyway kubona ama reactions ethu ngaloko ukuthi some of the shows are streamed live and kuba khona my comments nema likes, so I think lokho kuyaniketa ithemba ukuthi at least ama fans asesekhona.
Indeed, kuyasinika kakhulu lokuthi nje sibabone abantu emakhaya banyikanyisa inhloko kusho kona ukuthi cha nalelithemba lokuthi basekhona nekubona inombolo ke abantu lababukela kuyasinika lithemba ukuthi cha sothi emakhaya basesekhona abantu labasilanzelelako nalabasibukelako basiphathe.
So singayibukela nini nje lo ngoma, because I understand ukuthi it'll be streaming live tonight. Singakhona kuyibukela nini?
Ngicabanga wonke umuntu ekhaya nje from 5:30 angabe sekavela ngenile kule stream akhone ukubukela i-Q&A leta wendeka kimi na eZolani. Sikhone kudlala nale documentary lebe siyishutha ngoba sishuthe ne documentary ezisakha lengoma of journey yethu from Swaziland to Cape Town and from Cape Town and back. So tawutsikela kubo 7:30 6:30 bese ke sekwenze nasekudlaleke lengoma nale documentary saseke sesiyangena, so yangena sense, so yanperformela ke balalele babukele emakhaya for loyo 30 minutes ezisade ukuthi ama COVID regulations athi event ayibe 2 hours, so sitawugcina ke nalo nathi.
Looking forward to it. So siyithola kuphi ku YouTube noma ka Facebook?
Maungakhona nje ukuthi uye ku page la Sense Music 01 in all platforms, or uye ku page la ka MTN Bushfire utawukhona kubona ukuthi ama links akuphi. Uyayithola na ka Swazi TV, uyayithola na ka YouTube, utayithola na ka cishe nje kuwo onke lele sinawo, utawungena wena wasekhaya ubukele kuleli page la Bushfire utawukhona ukuthola ama links on where you can actually stream the event live.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Sense, for joining us today on the show.
Kubonga thine, sicela nokusithanza nekubonga ku MTN Bushfire kusinika leli thuba, sibonge kakhulu na Swazi TV.
All right, thank you so much. All right, mbukeli besikhulumisana naye lapha umhlabeleli Sense lo wende ingoma nemhlabeleli waseNingizimu Africa Zolani lo wadewa kakhulu nga The One Who Sings. Kanti ke le ngoma bayende ngaphansi kwe initiative ye Bushfire le yadewa nge The Collab lehlose kuconnecta ne unite ama artists from Eswatini and South Africa. It'll be streaming live tonight from 5:30 uhlola nje ka Facebook ekhasini la Sense 01. Let's take a break. Nasibuya sitawubuya nema sports update.
It's very unfortunate. It is very rich in resources, very rich.
The Eswatini TV Board of Directors, management and staff convey their wholehearted condolences on the untimely passing of our former CEO, Mr. Bongani Austin Gqokosiyancinca Dlamini. Sgqoko, as he was affectionately known, served the station as Chief Executive Officer for 3 successive terms, where he served with diligence and integrity, contributing to the success of the organization. His demise is indeed an immeasurable loss to the authority and nation at large, as he was a colleague, father, and leader who sternly believed in teamwork and growth. We will miss his wisdom, pleasantly bigger-than-life personality, and his great sense of humor. May the good Lord comfort his family, colleagues, friends, fans, and nation at large during the sad time of immeasurable loss. Hamba kahle Nkosi. May your soul rest in eternal peace, Hlublo Mhlumlangeni.
Right, Mugeli, you are watching the Friday edition of Kusile Breakfast Show. Nyaloge kulesikhatha manje sitawungena kuma sports updates. He was onto something. He's still onto something even today. Ngizathela emsakato Phathizo Msibi. Ukhona la endlini tekusakata sinaye ke manje. Phathizo sikufuzele sikumukele hleleni.
Sifusele babukele emakhaya.
Kunjalo Phathizo singena ku subject lo ithanda kakhulu. It defines you. I think for you it's second nature.
Well, sports, I mean, everyone get yini seeing ngaphandle kwama sports.
Yeah.
Because you got to relax ngama sports, and so, you know.
True. And siya weekend, a lot is happening. Strategy tool. Itolo course of qualifiers. And anyone does qualifiers double action.
Oh well, Zex, if uyibukele le game, you saw the difference between the two teams. Mabuwa ukuthi double action and Manzinondras.
Yeah.
Mina look challenge kwangithusa the physical structure of the two teams.
Yeah.
You see it double action badlali bakhona, they are light. And if you looking at Manzinondras, they are a bit heavy, and you could tell ngendlela abadlala ngayo ukuthi their movement, their runs, laba Sebotwana, uyabona ukuthi no, this team is very fit, very good going forward, and bese strictly shy beat, we were not able to play the ball, but the more we shaya, ibuya as quickly as we shy. So that was just what was happening, and we are basically lucky to have considered only 3 goals.
Could
have been worse. Could have been worse. But I do believe from that game, because this team we're talking about, I guess, ever active for the longest of time.
2018 since?
It's 18-19 season, yes. Back to Bama champions because na tournaments lenga pelanga. So bagcina kudlala lapho. Season lenga pelanga. So bebasolo bajima nje kuphela, they will play some few friendlies against the national team lekwa yona nayo ayikabe active kangakanani. So you know ukuthi bekulukhuni ngumxansa vele lesithumela ukuthi Manzinondras siyowenda South Africa, and they are playing in Defence Force next, and from what I saw when they were playing Sundowns at Defence Force, I do believe we can get something, because the team from Lesotho, the Defence Force, ibukeka njengayo Manzinondras in terms of the physical appearance yalabadlali, in terms of body size and all that, baphose balingane, so mcansi batawutholana, and they lost 6-0 against Sundowns, and we are playing the last game against Sundowns. But the positive is we still have Sundowns 2 games. Leo met fitness lekon ngasetawe into mehluko, because the next game is tomorrow. Nayo Defence Force yaseLesotho. So it's gonna be very interesting to see ukuthi khamba kanjani. But having dropped the first point, so vele somehow goes ruler out ukuthi siqhubekele mpilo, but it will take something special. If we were to get anything from this group, because now we'll have to beat a double Defence Force from Lesotho, SBC Sundowns, or at least get a draw, and then we calculate ukuthi kepha kuze sichubeke kumele kwentekeni kule game.
How many points do we need?
Kumele sichubeke kumele usilana adliwe ngabani score.
Yeah,
it's a big task.
It's always finger crossed ukuthi at least nangabe bani.
Yeah, and then how do you cross your fingers now usadlala ngale when you're playing Sundowns for that matter. So it's gonna be very very difficult.
Right. Umqeqeshi ukhala kakhulu ngema games ukuthi there has been no action.
We can say,
yeah.
We can say that because there's what you call match fitness.
Yeah.
You can train every day. If ungatfoli ukuthi igala nalabanye funa ukuthi uyadlala. And ngewuthathe ukuthi kuphi.
The importance of friendlies.
Importance of friendlies. Because igame ungafika wena ujime, itempo lojima ngayo it's not usually the same tempo. Lothu afika udlale ngayo.
Competing against someone.
Yabona because nayo ulungiselela ngendlela lehlukile. Awathi usile game pace itafika ukhanze ngakanani. Mawufika ukhanze game pace isetulo nabo solojima low utawukhameka. That's exactly what's happening. But then if you play more games, ngilabo bese khona kubamba ke lawo ma pace. Noma team ngeta na ip pace utakhona kuyibamba because ufit. You've been playing more games because the more you play, the better you become. Because even if you look at the leagues around, bayabakutshela ukuthi basashota kancane lapha nalapha, and ngiko most of the professional teams will play more friendlies before the season starts. See uzutibuti ukuthi awula badlali bathothina badlali ama friendly langaka. No, they are preparing ukuthi makucala season bangabe baqala slackish bavele baqale on a high, but okhona ukuthi ba accumulate more points as early as possible.
Yeah. Siyawukhuphuka international Paralympics asiqala nga Tuesday 24 August ayavula officially. Sibona China is leading the pack.
China is always leading.
10 gold medals already.
China is always leading. Because nala kulama Olympics like Kosaphum they were there. Beba late to top 5 now. So nanyalo it's so interesting kubuka ukuthi if you put your mind and pour into it, what can you do? Because you're looking at those people competing lapa and you're thinking how are they able to pull off this? And it's so interesting kwabukela lama games as so but I do believe that China will finish this tournament bang
number one. Yeah. And then okay, let's come back to football Champions League Netro. Manchester City itose PSG.
We could be living in a very interesting time in terms of football because you're talking of Group A where there is PSG, there is Manchester City, Leipzig and Club Brugge. Well, I feel sorry for Club Brugge because but then Manchester City, PSG, there's a big possibility ukuthi Cristiano Ronaldo adlalela in Manchester City this season. So in this Champions League,
but it's still rumors.
But leading transfer journalists internationally, they're starting to confirm the deal to be happening. So imagine Ronaldo versus Messi once again in different teams.
We're making history again,
which will be something that's usually Ronaldo and Messi are different teams, Manchester, Madrid, Juventus, but now
it's gonna be Messi against
PSG versus Manchester City. It's gonna be very interesting, and I feel sorry for Club Brugge to be in this group because it's a very strong group. Then we're in Group B, we have Atletico, Liverpool, Porto, and Milan. Not an easy group as well.
Again,
not an easy group. Sporting, Dortmund, Ajax, Besiktas. I think this is the weakest group.
Well,
Group C, you expect Dortmund to be leading and Ajax to go through. Group D, we got Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Shakhtar, and Sheriff. Well, Madrid and Inter, Shakhtar for Europa. I think they will finish like that. Bayern, Barcelona, Benfica, Dynamo Kiev. Another interesting group, but it will depend how come and cope with the team. Because he might surprise everyone. Because good Lomkatsile, good sang something. So the group, Puma the group. But I do believe good Puma. Everyone wouldn't mind facing Barcelona at this point in time because they are not the strongest. In terms of personality, but okay, there is quality player. Look, Messi, it's like half of the strength of the team. So
huge impact.
Very, very huge. Then we have Villarreal, Manchester United, Atalanta, young boys. It's going to be difficult between Villarreal, Manchester and Atalanta. Because Manchester United hasn't been doing very well, more especially in Champions League. So in European competition, because the last time they played Villarreal, it was the finals of the Europa. But in Manchester. So I think the return bayabuya bayatholana futhi. Then the last 2 groups Magzagaza before we move. Kune Lille, kune Seville, kune Salzburg, kune Wolfsburg. Another weak group I think. Chelsea, Juventus, Zenit, Malmo group H. Very interesting.
As Chelsea,
the defending champions.
Yeah.
Hey. I think they won't struggle to get out of the groups. Right. We are excited because of the game against Juventus.
It won't be easy.
It won't be easy, definitely, because Italian teams and defending, they are very, very good. So Lukaku going back to Italy, going back to head.
But that pass.
Chelsea, Juventus.
Yeah.
The bad defender, but nego socials papagale pass.
And at the same time counter.
Yeah, they are very good at organizing their defenses. Yeah. So you'll expect a very interesting game. And Magzaza, just to add on Guma transfers.
Yeah.
There's a big transfer that has been confirmed. Pesitao from South Africa, Lebegadala go Britain. Well, I would say Begadala, he was registered though.
Not so much active,
because he didn't play much. Yeah. He has returned to Africa. He signed for Al Ali, Lekochang Pito Masumane.
And they are meeting again.
His coach,
his former coach,
2016 Maboni CAF Champions League. Now he returned to the club of the century in terms of African football.
And we can say history is repeating itself.
Yeah, so you'll expect Al Ali to be unstoppable because the signings they made. But there is one thing I like about this. We are bringing our best players in Europe to play in Africa, which can only make African footballs better.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna bring those players, if we're not exporting our best players, because bahambe bayilenga share, and then at the same time, even if babuya we're not any better, winner this big tournament. Why not have them all here? Compete
in one pot.
Imagine Al Ali with Pesitao, with Masukalina, he was playing for Simba last season. A very, very good player, was a Mozambique. Al Ali, they will defend the Champions League Quest 3. I promise. They will take the Champions League even this season because the signings they are making, they are getting the best players. But now they are getting the best players. I remember Ibrahimi from Morocco, who was a champion player of the series. He signed in an African team. He didn't move to Europe or anything. So
the importance, you made a very important and an interesting point. We need to appreciate them. As much as they go to Europe, and they come back again, then we still appreciate them.
Let's get them while back prime and compete here. Right,
Nguphathiswa Msibi, our sports journalist, is on to something, and he was on to something yesterday. Very interesting topics that we were discussing, sports, since a Friday. Babukela bahle asithatheke careful elifishane masibuya nalungela makakula siyaliphetha kulolu hlelo. This is Kusile. Good morning.
Kufaka imbi yeqedza i-HIV kanye namalale fever.
Kubika Sibusiso Ngubane anamba Dube katoma indaba kalavumisa.
Ndizabente Eswatini TV ngilingithini Gule ngambonga Dube. Stemba bani.
It's already 8 o'clock a.m. 8 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. It was a lovely Friday. Sithemba ukuthi indaba nemphela sonto lenhle ngiqhubeke nje ndiphephise nilandzele yonke imigomo lebekiwe emkhuhlane COVID-19 geza tandla ngemanti la flow akho emanti lageletako kanye nensipho noma ke sanitize nifake wona ema masks.
Kunjalo bokose sikhumbule ukuthi it's day number 2 yenkonzo eKuzila. Siyaqhubeka nekuthandazela ukuthi live liphile live leSwatini nemhlaba wonke nje and peace and stability. Kunjalo bokose sukuleno halibeng lihle ngilelihle nisale kahle.